She and her sister were among the first women to practice medicine. She was able to distinguish between mental illness and demonic possession. Today's curiosities are about Saint Zenaide. Here are 11 facts about her. 11. Origin and family connection. Saint Zenaide was born in Tarsus, a city in the region of Cilicia, now part of Turkey. Tarsus is also known as the birthplace of Saint Paul, the apostle who underwent a dramatic conversion from persecutor of Christians to one of the faith's most fervent defenders. The fact that Saint Zenaide was Saint Paul's niece is significant, as she and her sister, Philonella, witnessed and benefited from their uncle's spiritual transformation. Paul's radical change profoundly impacted their lives, leading them to embrace Christianity with deep devotion. Zenaide and Philonella, devout and committed to their faith, were ardent defenders of Christianity during a time when Christians faced persecution, particularly in regions dominated by pagan culture. They chose to dedicate their lives to God, living as consecrated virgins. Not only did they follow St. Paul's example, but they also became influential figures in spreading Christianity, especially through their medical practice and healing work, which earned them a reputation for holiness. Their connection to St. Paul highlights the spiritual and missionary context in which Zenaide and her sister lived. Paul's influence is evident in their actions, as their lives revolved around spreading Christianity and caring for others, values Paul preached and practiced in his ministry. Thus, Zenaide's origin and family ties are not just biographical details but markers of her mission and crucial role in early Christian history. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, do so now to learn more interesting facts about the saints. 10. The first Christian women physicians. Saint Zenaide and her sister, Saint Philonella, were pioneers in Christian medicine, becoming some of the first women to practice medicine in the history of Christianity. Although the history of medicine has been largely male-dominated, the sisters stood out as advocates for health, both physical and spiritual, integrating medical practice with Christian faith in a groundbreaking way for their time. Though not formally trained by ancient standards, they possessed a deep understanding of human needs and compassion for suffering. It is unclear how they learned their craft, but they fully devoted themselves to it, serving all in need, regardless of social class, and without charging for their services. In a society where medicine was male-dominated and local doctors often treated only the wealthy, charging exorbitant fees and engaging in superstitious practices, the sisters distinguished themselves through their altruism. They rejected amulets and magical cures, instead focusing on healing through a combination of medical science, prayer, and faith in God. This blend of faith and science became a hallmark of their mission. They were also ahead of their time in addressing illnesses often attributed to spiritual forces. Saint Zenaide, for instance, is known for distinguishing psychiatric disorders, such as depression, from demonic possession, treating these conditions with a mix of remedies and faith. This advanced understanding of psychology and biology was revolutionary in an era when medicine was intertwined with superstition. Their dedication not only alleviated physical suffering but also helped spread Christianity. By healing the sick and offering hope to the needy, they attracted many to the Christian faith. Their charitable work and medical practice left a lasting legacy, fostering a devoted following that spread across various regions. 9. Conversion inspired by Saint Paul. The conversion of Saint Zenaide and her sister, Saint Philonella, to Christianity was profoundly influenced by their uncle Saint Paul's dramatic transformation. Before his conversion, Saul of Tarsus was a fierce persecutor of Christians, hunting down Jesus' followers with zeal, believing they threatened religious and social order. However, his miraculous conversion on the road to Damascus radically altered his life and view of Christianity. He became one of the faith's most passionate advocates. The transformation of Saul into Paul was so impactful that it deeply moved those around him, including his nieces Zenaide and Philonella. Witnessing the transformative power of Christian faith in their uncle's life, they understood the true meaning of conversion. Paul's journey from persecutor to apostle was a living testament to God's mercy and the truth of Christ's message. In a society where Christianity was distrusted and often persecuted, their conversion was not only a spiritual commitment but also an act of courage. They devoted their lives to God, embracing Christianity with fervor and living according to its principles. Their faith was a reflection of the transformation they witnessed in Paul and its profound impact on their lives. Inspired by Paul's example, they sold their possessions and traveled to villages and cities, preaching the gospel, healing the sick, and helping the needy. This dedication to spreading Christianity and serving others mirrored Paul's missionary work and highlighted their shared commitment to alleviating human suffering and bringing spiritual freedom through faith in Christ. Leave your prayer request in the comments so Saint Zenaide can intercede for you before God. 8. Free care and combating superstition. Saint Zenaide and her sister Philonella played a revolutionary role in their time by opposing both the elitist healthcare system and the superstitious practices prevalent among ancient society's physicians. During that era, doctors were often associated with the wealthy class, charging exorbitant fees for treatments and frequently using amulets and charms to promise healing. These magical objects and superstitious practices were widely accepted, especially given the limited scientific understanding of diseases at the time. Many physicians exploited people's fear and ignorance to profit from their health rather than seeking truly effective treatments. In contrast, the two sisters chose a completely different path. Zenaide and Philonella decided to use their medical skills not as a means of personal gain but as a free service to the community, particularly for the underprivileged. They viewed medicine as a gift from God, meant to alleviate human suffering, and believed that medical care should be accessible to everyone regardless of social class or financial capacity. Thus, they treated the poor and the sick without charging for their services, becoming a beacon of hope for those who could not afford the treatments of contemporary physicians. Moreover, Zenaide and Philonella vehemently opposed the superstitious practices of many local doctors who relied on occultism and magical amulets to heal the sick. The sisters rejected these beliefs and practices, instead promoting Christian faith, prayer, and medical care grounded in knowledge and reason. They taught that true healing came from the union of faith and science, not from magical rituals or deceptions. This approach not only distinguished them among Christians of their time but also brought them into conflict with traditional physicians. Their practice challenged the status quo, threatening the power and authority of professionals who profited from people's ignorance. As a result, the sisters faced persecution from these doctors and those opposed to the spread of the new Christian faith. Despite the persecution, Zenaide and Philonella's service attracted many people who saw in the sisters not just healers but also models of compassion and dedication. Their miraculous cures and kind, generous treatment of the poor rapidly grew the Christian community around them. In a world where suffering was often ignored or exploited for the profit of a few, the sisters became symbols of love and altruism, demonstrating that true healing extends beyond the body to touch the soul as well. 7. Reflections on medicine and faith. Saint Zenaide stood out not only for her medical practice but also for her innovative perspective on the nature of diseases, especially those affecting the mind and spirit. She was among the first historical figures to recognize that psychiatric disorders, such as depression, were not merely the result of spiritual or malevolent influences, as widely believed at the time, but conditions that could be attributed to physical and psychological factors. This pioneering understanding of mental health marked a significant advance in a society that often confused mental illnesses with demonic possessions or divine punishments. In Zenaide's time, medicine and spirituality were deeply intertwined. The belief that physical and psychological illnesses were caused by supernatural forces or the intervention of spirits was prevalent in both culture and medical practice. Treatments for mental illnesses often involved exorcism rituals, intense prayer, or the use of amulets and magical objects, with the idea that the afflictions of the soul required spiritual interventions for healing. However, by observing the reality of diseases and the people around her, Zenaide realized that many of the disorders affecting people's minds, such as depression, anxiety, and other psychological conditions, were not caused by evil forces or external influences but by internal issues such as emotional imbalances, traumas, or organic problems. This vision reflected a more scientific and humane understanding, separating spirituality from superstition and acknowledging the impact of mental health on an individual's overall well-being. By adopting this approach, Zenaide not only expanded the reach of the medicine of her time but also integrated physical and spiritual healing in a more balanced and holistic manner. She understood that while prayer and faith could provide spiritual and emotional strength, science and medicine were also divine instruments for promoting the healing of the body and mind. This union of faith and reason was fundamental to her medical practice, allowing her to treat both spiritual ailments through prayer and Christian guidance and physical and psychological illnesses through more advanced remedies and therapies for her era. In addition, Saint Zenaide was one of the first to promote a view of mental health that challenged the misconceptions of her time, offering a more empathetic and scientific understanding of psychological issues. She regarded depression and other mental illnesses not as a curse or something to be feared but as conditions that could be treated with compassion, care, and, when necessary, medical assistance. This approach helped pave the way for the development of a more inclusive and emotionally and psychologically aware form of medicine. 6. Persecution and Martyrdom. The lives of Saint Zenaide and her sister Philonella were marked by a profound impact on the communities they served, both spiritually and socially. Their work in healing, Christian education, and dedication to caring for the needy brought them significant popularity, especially among the poor and marginalized. However, this success also provoked the anger of other groups, particularly local doctors and practitioners of pagan religions, who saw the sisters as a threat to their authority and livelihoods. Zenaide and Philonella provided free healing services and rejected superstitious practices such as amulets or charms, contrasting sharply with the pagan therapies and esoteric medicine promoted by local doctors. Additionally, by addressing both physical and spiritual illnesses, the sisters undermined the popularity of pagan cults and religious practices associated with healing, such as rituals dedicated to the Greek god Asclepius, the god of medicine. This god was widely venerated by pagans in the region, especially in places with temples dedicated to his worship, such as Demetria, a city near the cave where the sisters lived. As the Christian faith gained adherents and the demand for pagan healing temples declined, priests and followers of the Asclepius cult grew fearful of losing their influence over the people. At the same time, opposition from doctors who viewed the sisters' practice as a threat to their income and social prestige intensified. These groups began inciting persecutions against the saints, attempting to destroy their reputation and work. Faced with increasing danger and imminent violence, Zenaide and Philonella decided to seek refuge in a cave, a remote location where they could continue their healing and preaching activities without interruption from the persecutions. The cave became a symbol of their dedication to Christian service and a life of prayer, a sacred refuge where they could continue to welcome those seeking healing and spiritual comfort. However, the sisters' popularity did not go unnoticed by their persecutors. One night, while the sisters were in their cave, a group of pagans and doctors, driven by hatred and fear of losing their power, attacked them. During the assault, the sisters were brutally stoned to death, sealing their fate as martyrs of the Christian faith. Although the sisters' deaths brought great sorrow to the local Christian community, they also had a paradoxical effect. Instead of weakening Christian faith, the martyrdom of Zenaide and Philonella strengthened the determination of Christians in the region. Their deaths drew more converts, many of whom, inspired by the sisters' courage and sacrifice, embraced Christianity and began to challenge pagan cults and superstitions. 5. The cave as a symbol. The cave where Saint Zenaide and her sister Philonella sought refuge during persecution became a profoundly significant symbol for the local Christian community. This seemingly simple place came to represent much more than a mere physical shelter. It became a point of spiritual connection, a place where faith and charity united in a practical and meaningful way. At that time, Christians were often forced to practice their faith clandestinely due to persecution imposed by the Roman Empire and pagan groups, which saw Christianity as a threat. The cave, with its isolated and safe nature, was the ideal setting for the sisters to continue their mission of healing and evangelization without the imminent risk of being captured by their enemies. More importantly, it symbolized the union of fervent prayer and service to others, a fundamental principle of early Christianity. During their time in the cave, Zenaide and Philonella not only devoted themselves to prayer but also cared for the sick and needy who came to them. Thus, the cave became a symbol of hospitality and charity, reflecting the true essence of Christianity, which is not confined to the walls of temples or churches but manifests in concrete actions of helping others. With the martyrdom of the sisters, the cave continued to be revered, as it had been the site of so many miraculous healings and where the true essence of Christianity had been lived: faith that heals, prayer that transforms, and charity that saves. It became a place of pilgrimage where Christians could gather to pray and remember the example of holiness and sacrifice set by Saint Zenaide and Philonella. 4. Patron saint of mental health. Saint Zenaide is venerated as one of the pioneers in understanding mental illnesses and is invoked as the patron saint of doctors, psychiatrists, and mental health professionals. Her contribution to medicine was significant, especially in distinguishing between physical and spiritual illnesses. During her time, most mental illnesses were seen as demonic possessions or spiritual influences, a view deeply rooted in superstition and scientific ignorance. However, Saint Zenaide was one of the first to identify psychiatric disorders, such as depression, as real diseases with physical and psychological causes, not as consequences of supernatural forces. This innovative work by Saint Zenaide paved an important path for Christian medicine, as she rationally combined faith with medical practice. She believed that just as the body needed medical care, the soul also required treatment through prayers and spiritual support, but without resorting to mysticism or magic. This balance between scientific medicine and spiritual healing became a model that continues to inspire health professionals to this day. 3. Iconographic Representation. The iconographic representation of Saint Zenaide is rich in symbolism, reflecting both her spiritual mission and her dedication to medicine and healing. In many images and icons, she is depicted wearing a red mantle with a blue overcoat, colors that carry profound meanings within the Christian tradition. The red mantle is often associated with love, passion, and sacrifice, representing Zenaide's commitment to the Christian cause and her willingness to suffer for it. Red also symbolizes charity, the virtue that guided her actions in healing and helping those in need, especially in the context of her work with the sick. As the color of Christ's passion, red also evokes the idea of martyrdom, as Zenaide and her sister Philonella gave their lives for the Christian faith. The blue overcoat, on the other hand, is a color associated with serenity, purity, and divine protection. Blue symbolizes the vastness of the heavens and the connection to the divine, reflecting Zenaide's spiritual nature, which combined medical practice with prayer and faith. By wearing blue, she also connects to the Virgin Mary, who is often depicted in the same color, reinforcing the idea that her healing extended beyond the physical to the spiritual, mirroring divine and maternal care. One of the most striking features of Saint Zenaide's iconography is the cross she holds in her right hand. The cross is a central symbol of Christianity, representing Christ's sacrifice and the mission of humanity's redemption. The position of the cross in Zenaide's hand symbolizes her profound faith and the centrality of Christ in her life and mission. The cross is also associated with her work of spiritual healing, as she equated the healing of the body with the healing of the soul, always aligning her care with Christian truth. Additionally, Saint Zenaide is often depicted with a serene and compassionate expression, reflecting her life of service to others. Her calm and welcoming demeanor conveys the image of a woman of great faith, wisdom, and empathy, willing to help everyone, regardless of their social or religious status. 2. Enduring legacy. The legacy of Saint Zenaide, though less known than that of other saints, continues to have significant influence, particularly in the field of medicine. Her life and work represent a rare union between science and faith, offering a brilliant example of how these two spheres can coexist and even complement each other in caring for humans not only on a physical level but also on a spiritual one. 1. Liturgical Day. The liturgical day of Saint Zenaide is celebrated on October 11th. This date is observed by some communities that venerate her as a saint, particularly in places where her story and legacy hold greater relevance, such as among doctors and mental health professionals. And that's the end of another story filled with curiosities. Don't forget to share in the comments which saint's story you'd like to see next on the channel. See you in the next story.